I was sitting at the registration window, helping a man file a birth certificate for his newborn. Please expedite it, we're heading abroad for the New Year holidays. At first, when I saw the mother's name, I thought it was just a coincidence, but the birth date and household registration matched too closely. I took a deep breath, trying to suppress the shock rising inside me. The mother must come in person to sign the birth certificate. 20 minutes later, the mother appeared at the window. It was none other than my wife, Oriana, who was supposedly abroad studying and had always insisted on staying child-free. Chapter 1. I couldn't believe my eyes. My mind went completely blank. Oriana looked noticeably fuller than the last time I saw her, wearing a loose dress and radiating that glow only mothers seem to have. She used to treasure her long hair. If I accidentally tugged it even slightly, she'd be furious for half a day. Now, she had chopped it into a short bob just to have another man's baby. In front of me, she had always been proud and distant, like gracing me with a glance was a favor. But now, she leaned into the man's chest like a doting little wife, the picture of happiness. We'd been married for 6 years, and our intimacy was so rare you could count it on one hand. Oriana always kept her distance and made it clear she didn't want children. She was ambitious, and I understood how much pregnancy could affect a woman's career, so I chose to respect her. Last year, Oriana claimed her company was sending her abroad for 2 years of advanced training. I didn't hesitate to support her. I even sold my car to give her some living expenses. Just a few days ago, she sent me a message. Sorry, babe, I have to rush my thesis. I won't be coming back home for the new year. Looking back now, it was all part of the plan. When she finished signing and handed the paperwork through the window, she looked up, right into my cold, furious eyes. Her smile vanished instantly. She spoke awkwardly. Let's keep adult matters between adults. Don't drag the child into this. This is a public space. Whatever you have to say it at home. So she did know how disgraceful this whole thing was. Seeing the line of people behind her, I swallowed my rage and shoved the birth certificate at her. When I got home and opened the door, Oriana and that man were sitting on the couch waiting for me. As soon as she saw me, Oriana lit up and grabbed my arm, pulling me toward the dining table. She quickly brought out a steaming bowl of beef brisket soup. I spent hours making this. Try it, if you like it. I'll make it every day. All the years I'd known Oriana, she'd never once cooked for me. In the past, I would have treated this bowl of soup like a rare gift and finished every drop. But now, my stomach churned. I wanted to dump it out. Seeing me frozen, Oriana tried to sweet-talk me with a flirty smile. Nothing happened between Dominic and me. The child was conceived through IVF. He's sick and didn't want his parents to have regrets, so I agreed to be the surrogate. My heart skipped a beat. Dominic? That was Oriana's high school crush, the one she could never have. No wonder she broke her vow and chose to bear a child. She wanted to win over her dream guy. I looked over. Dominic sat calmly on the couch, his gaze flashing with a hint of provocation. My hands clenched into fists on instinct. Oriana leaned close to my ear and whispered coquettishly, "Just think, if you agree to be the godfather, you'll gain a son for free. Everyone wins." She really had it all figured out. Turns out, Oriana never hated children, she just didn't want to have my child. Disgust surged through me. I shoved her head off my shoulder with force. She stumbled and immediately snapped, her face twisting with anger. "Marcel, I'm already apologizing humbly. What more do you want? Don't act like some poor victim. It's my body. You don't get to control my reproductive choices. I came clean because I respected you, but your reaction is seriously disappointing." The living room fell silent. The air itself seemed frozen. Dominic hurried to steady Oriana, anxiously checking if she was hurt, then scolded me in a heated tone. "Some man you are, blowing up at your own wife like that. Pathetic." Oriana clung to him like a wounded bird, gazing up with teary affection. Even now, they couldn't resist putting on a show in front of me. Bang! I swept my arm across the table, sending the bowl of soup crashing to the floor in a cloud of steam. I sneered. "Oh, so you do know Oriana is my wife? Then tell me, who the hell are you? Her boy toy, the homewrecker, or the scumbag who used her as a surrogate?" Chapter 2. Dominic's face turned deathly pale. He clutched his mouth and started coughing violently. Seeing her beloved, god-tier crush coughing like that, Oriana couldn't take it. Without a word, she rushed to shield Dominic behind her and pointed at my nose, yelling, "Marcel, can you speak like a normal person? I chose to have Dominic's baby. Stop barking like a mad dog." And as if that wasn't enough, she added, "Didn't Buddha say that saving one life is more virtuous than building a 7-story pagoda? Aren't you afraid of going to hell for acting like this?" Just to defend Dominic, the woman who didn't even believe in God suddenly invoked Buddha, and even cursed me to hell. A bitter taste welled up in my throat. My wife had another man's child, and somehow I was the villain. In Oriana's eyes, I should be endlessly grateful just for the chance to marry her, never asking for anything more. Backed by my love for her, she had long grown arrogant, spoiled and entitled, always twisting things to make herself the victim. But when all was said and done, I had only myself to blame. I had been pitiful and foolish. Oriana gently patted Dominic's back, eyes filled with worry. I glanced at him. He sipped from his cup with delicate ease, lips curving into a subtle, smug smile. At that moment, everything felt like a joke. I stood up and headed toward the bedroom. On the way, my foot landed on the broken porcelain shards from the bowl I'd shattered earlier. Bright red blood soaked into my white sock, but I didn't feel a thing. I opened a drawer, pulled out an old box of cigarettes, and lit one. Oriana always hated the smell of smoke. This pack had been sitting untouched for years. I took a deep drag. The bitter smoke swirled in my lungs, as if it could somehow dull the ache in my heart. The nicotine numbed my nerves, helping me hold back the rage. Without it, I was afraid I'd do something truly reckless. So I just sat there in silence, letting those two carry on their cozy little love story outside. Suddenly, the door burst open. Oriana walked in, frowning and covering her nose, then snatched the cigarette from my hand and threw it into the toilet. Who said you could smoke? Don't you know I hate the smell? You're doing this on purpose, aren't you? No wonder Dominic's coughing so much. It's all your fault. Her words almost made me laugh. She could even blame this on me. Before I could respond, Dominic deliberately coughed a few more times and said in a peacemaker's tone, Ori, don't be mad. It's fine. I can handle a little coughing. The moment he spoke, Oriana looked even more heartbroken. She rushed to open the windows and air the place out. Then she grabbed a bag from the couch, carefully poured out a few pills, and handed Dominic a glass of water to take them. That kind of tenderness, I'd never seen it from her, not once. A sharp pain shot up from my foot. I looked down and saw the wound was bleeding again. Limping slightly, I walked out, grabbed my car keys, and headed for the door to get stitches at the hospital. Just then, Oriana's voice rang out behind me, dripping with contempt. Marcel, stop acting like a drama queen. Dominic is actually sick, and you're here throwing jealous fits. Have some empathy. He's been taking care of me all year. What's wrong with me taking care of him now? My hand froze on the doorknob. I turned around and locked eyes with her. By that logic, I should be thanking him, I said coldly, for knocking up my wife. That hit a nerve. As if marrying me had been the biggest stain on her life, Oriana completely lost it. She stormed over and started hitting me, punching and slapping with no restraint. Still not satisfied, she raised her stiletto heel and stomped hard on the most vulnerable part of my foot. Ah! My scream shook the air, the searing pain shooting through every nerve in my body. Over the years, whenever Oriana got upset, she never hesitated to hit me, no matter the time or place. Now, after hearing me insult Dominic again, she was beyond furious. She crossed her arms and stared coldly at me, curled up on the floor in pain. Marcel, she said, I expect you to treat Dominic with respect from now on. So what if I had a baby for him? It's just a womb rental. Why are you being so dramatic? Chapter 3. Half an hour after arriving at the hospital, I got 10 stitches in the sole of my foot and was diagnosed with 2 broken toes. 3 days in the hospital, Oriana didn't call even once. Before I even opened the door at home, I heard the sound of a baby crying. As I stepped into the house, what greeted me was a picture-perfect family of 3. Oriana turned to look at me, her smile freezing mid-expression. Oh, you still remember this is your home? I thought you died somewhere. Dominic walked up with the baby in his arms, smiling as he introduced, Sweetie, this is your godfather. When you grow up, you need to thank him properly. He dragged out that last sentence, his smugness practically dripping from every word. I glanced at the baby. The features were practically a carbon copy of Oriana's. I said nothing, just stared at Oriana. She looked unbothered, even annoyed. You didn't spend a dime or lift a finger, yet you're still acting like a victim. If it weren't for Dominic, you'd probably rot in a nursing home with no one to send you off when you die. Hearing her twisted sense of logic made me feel like I'd swallowed a fly. Disgust rose in waves. She was the one who insisted on staying child-free. How was this suddenly my fault? Without a word, Dominic shoved the baby into my arms. Come on, let Godfather hold you. We're all one big family now, aren't we? Idiot. I reached out to push him away, but he mistook it as me accepting the baby. As the baby slipped downward, Oriana lunged forward just in time to catch him. The baby burst into loud wails, while I hit the floor, groaning in pain. Oriana let out a breath of relief, then turned to me in fury. You heartless bastard, it's just a baby. Were you really trying to kill him? If anything happens to my son, I swear I won't let you off. I sat on the ground in cold sweat, clutching my throbbing foot. Oriana didn't even spare me a glance. She was busy doting on the child she had with another man, and for the first time, I felt relieved. Thank God we never had a child together. If she hated me so much, how could I ever expect her to love my child? This kind of rejection and pain, I'd rather bear it alone than involve an innocent life. I dragged my injured leg into the bedroom, refusing to face the disgusting couple outside. Lying in bed, I mindlessly scrolled through social media. The algorithm suddenly pushed a photo of Oriana and her family of 3. I tapped it. Sure enough, it was her account. The dream guy I couldn't have when I was young, I've recreated him now. Within minutes, her friends were flooding the comments. Oh my god, your husband is so handsome. He looks just like our high school heartthrob, Dominic. This is literal fairy tale love. After all those twists and turns, you two ended up together. Oriana didn't deny it. She even liked that comment and responded with a blushing emoji. Choosing a high-quality baby daddy is the real meaning of motherhood. Ori chased Dominic for so long, who would have thought? Now she's got his child. They say you never get over what you couldn't have when you were young, especially if it's a person. Everyone around her seemed thrilled to watch her fulfill her fantasy. Everyone except me. None of those friends had even met me, except her bestie, Elise. Sure enough, Elise chimed in right on cue with a not-so-subtle jab. A toad can never compare to a white horse prince. Hurry up and marry him, sis. In her eyes, I was nothing but a leech, useless and not worthy of Oriana. She'd always stirred up drama between us, bad-mouthing me behind my back. I used to ignore it all, for Oriana's sake, but now, I was thoroughly disgusted with both Oriana and her so-called best friend. My finger hovered, then tapped like on Elise's comment. Then I replied, blunt and to the point, thanks for your support. Once the divorce is finalized, they can finally be together. This toad wishes them and their perfect little family a lifetime of happiness. And just for good measure, I posted a photo of our marriage certificate. Chapter 4. Elise wasn't wrong. I did chase Oriana with everything I had. Back then, after Dominic rejected Oriana's confession for the 7th time, he boarded a plane to study abroad. That period nearly broke her. She wandered through her days like a ghost and even climbed to the rooftop, ready to end it all. Luckily, I was up there too, smoking in secret. I spotted her just in time and pulled her back from the edge. Watching her cry, like a flower soaked in rain, it was impossible not to feel compassion. Somewhere in that process of saving her, I fell in love, determined to pull her out of that unrequited crush. I did everything I could to win her over. Everything Oriana once did for Dominic, I gave her back twice as much. Maybe she saw some reflection of her younger self in me, because eventually she started to accept me. She'd been raised by her grandmother, and they were extremely close. When her grandmother fell gravely ill, Oriana proposed to me herself, hoping to fulfill the old woman's final wish. Despite my family's objections, I emptied all my savings to buy her a house and a car, doing my best to give her everything she wanted. On her deathbed, her grandmother clutched my hand with tears in her eyes and entrusted Oriana to me. I naively believed that if I gave her enough love, she'd love me back someday. But reality has a way of proving that not everything can be earned through effort. My phone started blowing up with notifications. My comment had gone viral, likes climbing by the second. Oriana's phone exploded with calls, her parents, her boss, even her colleagues, all demanding to know what was going on. She stormed into the room like a furious lioness, completely losing control. Marcel, delete that post and those photos right now. I didn't do anything to betray you. I smiled coldly and pointed at the baby in Dominic's arms. Then how did he get here? You said it's your body, your choice. Why not let the internet decide who's in the wrong? That hit a nerve. Oriana's lips trembled. That's because Dominic doesn't have much time left. He didn't want his parents to grieve. He didn't want to have a child with just any woman. I cut her off, voice low and bitter. When he dies, can you promise to never see that child again? Even now, knowing she loved someone else, I still clung to the fantasy that we could stay together. I'd already stepped back 1,000 paces, yet she hadn't taken even one toward me. Tears welled up in her eyes, her voice breaking as she failed to respond. I looked at her quietly for a long moment, then said the words slowly, one by one. Oriana, let's get a divorce. She had been drowning in sadness, but now her eyes turned bloodshot, and she glared at me in fury, her voice trembling with rage. Dominic is dying. Can't you have a shred of sympathy? Why must you force me into a corner? All I did was lend my body. I never cheated on you. Is that really worth a divorce? You call yourself a man. You're so petty it's pathetic. Even now, she still thought this was a small matter. She truly couldn't understand why I was making such a big deal of it. I didn't respond. After a long pause, Oriana suddenly seemed to reach a decision. Her brows relaxed slightly, and she bit her lip as if gathering courage. If you really care that much about having a child, once I recover, I'll give you one too. That way our kids can grow up together. I felt a crushing exhaustion. When I'd begged her countless times to start a family, she had always refused flat out, saying she wanted to stay child-free forever. But now, just to defend Dominic, she was willing to trade her womb for my silence. I gave a bitter smile. I don't want that anymore, Oriana snapped, screaming hysterically. I'm willing to sacrifice my body and have multiple kids for you, Marcel. Don't be so greedy. So, having a child for another man made her a saint. but giving one to her husband was some kind of unbearable burden. Without hesitation, I told her, "Let's just end this peacefully." She scoffed through her nose, her tone turning cold and threatening. "Fine, just don't come crawling back like a dog, begging for forgiveness, begging. We'll see who ends up begging who." Chapter 5. In the end, marriage left us with only two roles, the defendant and the plaintiff. It took me 6 years to realize I had lost this marriage completely and irreversibly. Back when we got married, I put the house under Oriana's name to give her a sense of security. I even added the cars. Never did I expect that one day in court, Oriana would cry crocodile tears and accuse me of domestic violence. She edited footage from our living room camera, cutting out everything except the moment I pushed her and she hit the shoe cabinet. She even kept the part where I accidentally nearly dropped the baby while facing away from the camera. Dominic, acting as a witness, straight up fabricated a narrative that painted me as a dangerous, abusive husband. Watching how smoothly they coordinated their lies in court, it was clear they had rehearsed it. I knew then I had walked into a trap. Everything had been orchestrated by Oriana, just to make sure I walked away from the marriage with nothing. They plotted every step while I stood there blindsided, humiliated, and helpless. After the divorce papers were finalized, I just wanted to go home, pack my things, and leave this cesspool behind. But as I was about to step out, I ran into Oriana and Dominic returning home, hand in hand. I chose to walk right past them, dragging my suitcase toward the door. Oriana suddenly slammed her hand on the suitcase and spat something that made my blood run cold. "Open it. I need to check you didn't steal anything from me." Before I could even respond, she unzipped it herself and dumped everything onto the floor. Then, a small wooden jewelry box slid out. It was my mother's heirloom, a jade bracelet she left behind. Oriana lunged forward and snatched it before I could react, shouting, "Isn't this the bracelet you gave me when we got married?" "Wow, Marcel, you're still trying to steal from me. Disgusting. That bracelet was meant for my future daughter-in-law, my mother's dying wish. Now that we were divorced, Oriana didn't deserve it." Seeing her greedy, entitled face, I raised my hand and slapped her hard. "That's my mother's keepsake. Give it back. You don't deserve to touch it. You vile woman. You can keep the house, the cars, I don't care. But this, you will not take from me." Oriana held her cheek, eyes wide with disbelief. Then, a venomous glint appeared in her eyes. Clutching the bracelet tightly, she let out a sinister laugh. "What's given is given. You don't get to take it back. If it's your mother's, then let her have it in the afterlife." And with that, she hurled the bracelet out the window. It traced a perfect arc before plunging from the 16th floor. A sharp, unmistakable sound of shattering echoed through the quiet complex. Oriana covered her mouth and let out a high-pitched, cackling laugh. Rage surged through my veins. I grabbed her wrist, unable to hold back anymore. "You psycho. Do you really think I'm afraid of you?" Suddenly, a blinding pain exploded at the back of my head. Warm liquid soaked through my collar. The room spun violently. Dominic stood behind me, face twisted in a sneer, holding a fire extinguisher, still stained with blood. "So much for a dying man," he hit like a weightlifter. "Dominic, you scared me to death." The look in his eyes, he was going to kill me. Oriana dove into Dominic's arms like a startled rabbit, faking tears and clinging to him as though she were the victim. I held my throbbing head, bile rising in my throat, and collapsed onto the floor, gasping for breath. Dominic shook his head slowly, his gaze dripping with scorn. "What are you scared of? Guys like him, nothing but bark and no bite. If he keeps pushing, I'll just smash his skull next time. Let him reunite with his dead mommy." Their laughter rang in my ears, followed by the deafening slam of the door. Just before I passed out, I saw a slender figure rushing over. It was the new neighbor from next door. She knelt beside me, stopping the bleeding and dialing for an ambulance. "Don't fall asleep. The ambulance is almost here. Just hang in there." Her voice was like music, gently pulling me back from the edge of death. After surgery, I stared at the medical bill in silence and had no choice but to call my older brother. His furious yelling exploded through the speaker. "You deserve it. That manipulative witch never loved you. You gave up the entire Chan group for her. I should have taken you to get your head checked." He wasn't wrong. I had brought this on myself, back then, to accept Oriana's sudden marriage proposal. I cancelled the family-arranged engagement and gave up my status as heir. My brother had tried to talk sense into me, even uncovered proof that Oriana was still in close contact with Dominic. But I, love-drunk and delusional, ignored it all, boasting that I'd make her fall in love with me. And now, beaten half to death, broke, and without even enough money for hospital bills. I get it now, big bro. From now on, I'll do whatever you say. Good. Then get back here, and your place as heir will be waiting. Chapter 6. I saw Oriana again 3 months later, at a real estate sales center. She was clinging sweetly to Dominic's arm, whispering with him in front of a housing model display. When Oriana looked up and saw me, her face stiffened noticeably, and she quickly averted her gaze. Dominic noticed the shift in her demeanor and turned, locking eyes with me. Well, couldn't hold your job at the certificate office, so now you're selling real estate, he smirked. With that sharp tongue of yours, you'd starve to death as a salesperson. All bark, no charm. Funny, he used to look like he was dying. Now he looked healthier than ever, with a glow on his face and a bounce in his step. Oriana let out a fake little cough, then said in a condescending tone, "We're looking to upgrade to a bigger place. Got anything to recommend?" That one made me laugh. I was just doing a routine inspection, and they mistook me for a sales agent. I let out a cold chuckle and couldn't be bothered to respond. I walked right past them, but Oriana grabbed the corner of my jacket, her expression sour. "I was trying to be nice and let you earn a commission. Don't be so ungrateful. All your cards got cancelled, remember? Don't be stupid about money." I had cancelled those cards because she'd linked them to her shopping accounts. Watching those endless luxury purchases ping my phone while I worked my ass off. Infuriating. She was spending my hard-earned money to support another man and their illegitimate child. And now, the woman who once pushed me off a cliff came back pretending to throw me a rope. I curled my lips into a smile and said calmly, "This is a luxury villa district. You don't just buy in because you want to. If you're paying with your own money, good luck. That mortgage interest isn't pocket change." Dominic didn't have a job due to his so-called illness. Oriana was covering all their expenses. Living off her obsession, he got free meals, free rent, and even a son handed to him on a silver platter. My words cut to the heart of it, mocking him for being a freeloading parasite. His face darkened instantly, storm clouds gathering in his eyes. Oriana stiffened, then erupted with hostility. "Who do you think you are? Looking down on people like that? Don't project your failures onto us. I will be buying this house. Dominic needs a place with lots of greenery and good air. It's for his health." Dominic looked at her with a smile, and gently tucked a loose strand of her hair behind her ear. That's when I noticed the green Submariner watch on his wrist. The memory came flooding back. Last Valentine's Day, I'd found that very watch in Oriana's bag and thought it was a gift for me. Ecstatic, I tried it on, only for her to snatch it away and snap. "Who said you could touch my stuff? You couldn't afford this watch even if you sold your kidney." She later claimed it was a gift for a client. Now I finally knew who the client was. I looked up with a mocking smile. "Each square meter here costs 100,000 yuan. Don't embarrass yourselves trying to play rich." She took that as a major insult, her face flushing with rage. "Call your manager. I'm filing a complaint." Arrogant little mutt. "I tried to help you, but no, fine. You want to be punished instead of praised." Her voice grew louder, laced with venom, attracting attention from all around. Soon, the sales manager came rushing over. "Hello, I'm the manager here. Is there something I can help with?" Oriana jabbed her finger toward me and launched into a tirade. "This so-called professional has no manners at all. He insulted us, treated us with contempt, absolutely disgusting. I want a formal apology. Better yet, I want him fired." The manager turned to look at me, and his expression shifted wildly. He stood stunned for a moment before finally stammering, Mr. Chan, if I'd known you were coming, I would have personally come out to welcome you." The look on Oriana and Dominic's faces twisted into something indescribable. That moment brought an indescribable rush of satisfaction. I gave a small smile, raised my hand, and gently pointed toward Oriana. "Kindly escort them off the premises. And from now on, no property under the Chan Group is to have any dealings with these two. 80% of the residential projects in this city belong to the Chan Group. They would never find a better home again." Chapter 7. My secretary called to say a woman named Oriana wanted to see me. Human nature is pathetic. We only obsess over what we can't get or what we've already lost. Everything else feels disposable. Security brought her to my office door. She stood outside for a full hour before I let her in. We'd been married for 6 years, and it was always me waiting on her. It was time she tasted that same feeling. Oriana stood in front of me, her eyes dull and uncertain, voice timid. "Marcel, was it you who got me fired from the company?" Now that she knew who I really was, the arrogance was gone. If this were the old Oriana, she would have charged in and slapped me without warning. Over the years, her smooth climb in the company had a lot more to do with my behind-the-scenes support than her own ability. Even though I'd given up my heir status at the time, the old connections still held weight in the business world. The help I gave her in secret only inflated her ego, made her think she was some kind of genius at her job, and now, she thought I was just a real estate agent and tried to sabotage me. Well, I figured it was only fair to return the favor. I spun the pen in my hand and looked at her sideways. "I just casually mentioned something. Didn't expect your boss to be so efficient. Seems like your company might be worth considering for our next project." Her boss, after hearing my request, replied without hesitation, "To work with the Chan Group, firing one person is nothing. We could scrap the whole department if needed." Oriana's eyes turned red, her shoulders trembled. She choked up. "That job meant a lot to me. Dominic's sick, and I still have to raise the child. Can't you forgive me, just this once, for the sake of what we used to have?" The way she sobbed reminded me of the rooftop scene years ago, when she tried to jump over Dominic. Even when her grandmother passed away, she hadn't cried like this. I rubbed my chin and bent down slightly, staring into her face, lowering my voice. What we used to have? You mean secretly having another man's child behind my back, smashing my mother's heirloom, or accusing me of domestic violence in court? Funny, Oriana. Just a few days without seeing me, and now you're begging like a stray dog. The once proud and untouchable Oriana, reduced to this pathetic state. She was probably drowning in regret. For the first time in a long while, the pressure in my chest lifted. It was like karma had finally come full circle. Oriana stood frozen, fury in her eyes but too afraid to speak. Now she was like a toothless wolf, no matter how hard she snapped. She couldn't hurt anyone anymore. Suddenly, she let out a strange, hysterical laugh. You always say I lied to you, but the truth is you lied first. You were a rich heir to the Chan Group and pretended to be poor when we got married. You never trusted me. I didn't bother explaining. There was no point anymore. Instead, I turned, pulled a stack of photos from a cabinet, and tossed them in front of her. You think Dominic didn't lie to you? Open your eyes and take a good look. The photos showed Dominic partying in a gay bar overseas, engaging in things that couldn't be unseen. I'd hired a private investigator recently, and what he found turned out to be a bonus surprise. Dominic didn't even like women, but because his family insisted on continuing the bloodline, he chose Oriana as the vessel. He played the long game, used guilt and fake illness to make her willingly offer up her womb. Once everything was in place, he planned to fake his death and return abroad to live happily ever after with his boyfriend. I hit play on a recording. Dominic's voice came through clearly, talking to his lover. To have a kid, I have to pretend to be affectionate with that woman. It's so disgusting. You don't know how many times I've thrown up in the bathroom after kissing her. I have to brush my teeth over and over. In a few days, I'll trick her into giving me more money for a fake surgery. I'll use it to buy you those limited edition sneakers. Oriana collapsed to the floor, eyes wide and hollow. She looked like a shell, an empty body robbed of its soul. The men she had loved for years had been lying to her the entire time. Chapter 8. Once I cut ties with all that toxicity, my life began to change for the better. I started clocking in at work on time every day and resumed my evening finance courses. I'd wasted too many years in a daze. Now, when it came to operations and decision-making, my brain could hardly keep up. To prepare me for succession, my older brother began assigning me all kinds of tasks. Suddenly, a cup of coffee appeared in front of me. I looked up and met Rebecca's worried gaze. Marcel Chan, your brain just got stitched up. If you push yourself like this again, what if it tears open? Funny how fate works. My neighbor who saved me that night turned out to be none other than the CFO of Chan Group. The moment she brought me a monthly financial report to sign, we instantly recognized each other. Some things are just meant to be. Rebecca had been headhunted by my brother with a generous offer. Not long after joining, she exposed several corrupt employees in the company. To outsiders, she was the definition of icy competence, decisive, no nonsense. Even my brother respected her deeply, but in front of me, she turned into a fussy, endearing girl next door. I rubbed my eyes, took a sip of the coffee, and grinned playfully, getting to drink a cup personally brewed by Supervisor Sue. Totally worth dying from overwork. Her cheeks flushed red, and she pouted before twisting my arm gently. Such a sweet talker. Do you ever act like a CEO? I brought you lunch. Eat first, then work. She pulled out a delicate lunchbox from behind her and opened it. Inside was my favorite, beef brisket rice. I took a bite. It was homemade. I'd often smelled this delicious aroma from outside her apartment door. Finally, I got to try it. Rebecca sat on the sofa, watching me eat with hesitant eyes. After a long silence, she finally said, I need to take some time off. I'm moving. I paused. Didn't you just move? Why so soon? Because there was a murder in the building a few days ago. It gives me the creeps. My chopsticks froze midair. Complicated emotions stirred in my chest. Not long ago, I saw messages in the neighborhood chat. Incident at Unit 1606, female owner attacked her boyfriend with a knife. Word is, his equipment got cut clean off. God, she was always cold and distant. Who knew she could be so brutal? After Oriana found out about Dominic's deception, she didn't lash out immediately. Instead, she kept taking care of him as usual, quietly, patiently. She truly believed that if she just gave enough, Dominic would change for her. That desperate devotion reminded me of how I once was with her. But Dominic didn't just take advantage of her love, he even flew his boyfriend back from abroad. While Oriana was at work, the two of them hooked up in their bed. She saw the whole thing on the live home monitor and rushed back to confront him. Instead of apologizing, Dominic shielded his lover and hit Oriana. He even screamed, "You disgusting woman, have you looked at your body lately? I should get praised for touching you. All these years, you've been clinging to me like some obsessive simp. Anyone else would have dumped you ages ago." That was the last straw. Oriana grabbed a kitchen knife and brought it down hard. Blood gushed from Dominic's groin. He was rushed to the hospital but died from blood loss. Oriana was sentenced to 10 years for intentional assault. The child was handed over to Dominic's parents. Seeing me fall silent, Rebecca quickly lowered her voice. "I'm sorry, Marcel. I didn't mean to bring it up. Before she could finish, I interrupted her. Have you found a new place yet?" Caught off guard, she tilted her head like a curious kitten and stared at me. Seeing her expression, I couldn't help but reach out and ruffle her hair. "If you haven't found one yet, I've got a spare room. If you don't mind, you're welcome to move in." The moment the words left my mouth, I saw her expression freeze. Panicking, I quickly added, "Sorry, if that makes you uncomfortable. I'll find a new place for you. I mean, you're a senior executive, we can't be careless." Rebecca paused. Then a soft smile slowly spread across her face. "Who said I minded? Honestly, I was hoping you'd ask." We locked eyes, and something sparkled between us. In that moment, the quiet corners of my heart lit up again. My face grew warm. That very evening, Rebecca moved in, and the more time we spent together, the more I saw another side of her. At work, she was sharp, commanding, a true corporate powerhouse. At home, she was warm and gentle, a bright little son who loved life, loved to cook, loved to travel. With her around, my life, once stagnant and gray, was suddenly full of light and possibility. On her birthday, I knelt down with flowers in hand and confessed my feelings. Tears welled up in her eyes as she nodded through her smile. That's when I finally understood, mutual love, not one-sided devotion, is what makes a relationship worth having. Willow slapped me in public, just to impress another man. That very day, I deleted and blocked every way she could contact me. Everyone was shocked. After all, Willow and I grew up together. I had liked her for over 10 years and even swore I'd marry her. Willow confronted me angrily. "Why? Just because I slapped you? Can you stop being so petty? You're a man, aren't you?" But I just sneered and asked back, "The day before you slapped me, remember what you said to someone else? Should I help you recall it?" Her face went pale instantly, and she was struck speechless. Chapter 1. Willow and I were born in the same hospital. She just came into the world a few hours earlier. Our parents were neighbors in the same village. After our neighborhood was torn down, we were relocated to the same apartment building. She hit puberty earlier than me, and as kids, she'd always use her height advantage to boss me around, treating me like her sidekick. I was introverted, often sick, and by the time I was in 4th grade, I became a regular target for a bunch of boys in our class. They'd steal my textbooks, toss trash into my water cup, and sometimes even push me hard from behind. I went to the teacher crying for help, but he just said, "Why do they only bully you, not others? Maybe it's because you can't fit in. You're partly to blame too." That day after school, when I told my parents what happened, Uncle Lou, Willow's dad, happened to be visiting our house. He saw the tears on my face, turned around, and brought Willow over from his place. "Willow, from now on, you'll walk to school with your little brother," Uncle Lou instructed her. The next morning, Willow was waiting for me at the door with her backpack. At school, she grabbed my hand and walked me into the classroom. She was taller than most boys in our class, and when she found the ringleader of the group bullying me, she dragged him into the alley behind the bathrooms. I stood behind her, watching as this one girl beat up an entire group of boys until they were crying and wailing. "I'm warning you, if you dare bully George again, you're going to regret it." Her voice wasn't loud, but it shook me to the core. That moment, the breeze lifted her long hair, and I saw her faint smile and those bright eyes. My heart started racing. I didn't understand love yet at that age, but I knew one thing: as long as I could see her, I felt happy. From that day on, rain or shine, Willow always waited at my door so we could go to school together. Even when she was sick and had to skip class, she'd still walk me to school first and pick me up before school let out. There was a 10-minute break during morning recess, and wherever Willow went, I followed. She'd often pretend to be annoyed and wave her hand, saying, "If you keep following me, I won't wait for you to go to school next time." But I never stopped. I happily stuck close to her, calling her Sister Willow every step of the way. One day after school, she wasn't outside my classroom like usual. I searched a few rooms she often visited, but still didn't find her. Even the security guard came and told me to leave, but I didn't see her anywhere. I walked toward the bus stop, dejected, when I finally saw her chewing bubblegum at a nearby snack shop. She walked toward me, still blowing bubbles, and complained, "Took you long enough." Then she pulled a piece of candy from her pocket and handed it to me. Time passed, and Willow and I grew up together like that. I had a growth spurt that summer and finally caught up to her in height. Later, I grew taller than her by quite a bit. I began to notice her looking at me differently. When I helped her with math, she wasn't looking at the questions, she was smiling at me. When the bus was full and she had to stand, I could see her shyly tugging at the hem of my uniform. After our high school entrance exams, both of us got into the city's top school. Her mom joked, "I've watched George grow up, he'd make a fine son-in-law." Willow, how about making it official once you both get into college? I knew Aunt Lou was teasing, but Willow blushed and ducked into my room. The adults all saw her reaction, and so did I. I could hear my own heart pounding like a drum as I shouted, "I like Willow. One day, I'm going to marry her." Everyone laughed, and I figured she heard it from inside the room too. But that special feeling came to an end in our final year of high school. Chapter 2. On the first day of our final year in high school, while the entire class sat waiting for our new textbooks, a boy with a bright and sunny face stood at the doorway. The homeroom teacher led him to the podium and introduced him. "This is Makoto, a new transfer student. Senior year is a crucial time, so I hope you'll all help him fit in." The sunlight lit up his face. He smiled, glanced around the room, and then fixed his gaze on me. "I heard from a friend," he said, "that there's a simp in this class. To be more specific, someone who follows a girl around like a loyal sidekick." Whoa. Gasps and murmurs immediately filled the room. I looked him in the eyes and swallowed hard. I didn't even have to turn to know that every single person was staring at me. After entering this top-ranked high school, I rarely ran into anyone from my elementary or middle school, but rarely didn't mean never, and when they saw I was still trailing behind Willow just like before, they'd snicker behind my back. At least no one had ever dared to say it to my face, until now. "Sorry, Wong," Makoto said mockingly. "I also heard you're really prideful. Will saying this upset you?" He raised his eyebrows at me, his eyes full of provocation. "But seriously, you're a guy always following a girl around. Isn't that a bit pathetic? She's not your mom, or are you part of a special group?" "Makoto, that's enough." Willow slammed her hand on the desk and stood up. Her chair toppled over with a loud bang. Makoto finally turned his gaze away from me, but his expression suddenly softened. "Am I wrong, Lou?" he said gently. "Honestly, you've been kind of annoyed by his clingy behavior for a while now, haven't you?" Willow pressed her lips tightly together, like she was silently admitting he had a point. Bang, bang, bang. The teacher knocked on the blackboard 3 times. Makoto finally shut up. "There's one empty seat, go sit there," he ordered, pointing at the seat next to Willow. Then he added, "This year, I hope all of you focus on your studies and get into your dream colleges." Pointless, childish nonsense like that, don't bring it up again. "All right, a few of you go to the office and pick up the textbooks." As the teacher spoke, he gave me a meaningful glance. I understood and followed the group out of the classroom. When I returned with the books, I saw something that made my stomach drop. The 2 people who had been at each other's throats just minutes ago were now standing very close together. Makoto looked up at me, his eyes gleaming with smug satisfaction. After school, Willow packed her bag and left the classroom hand in hand with Makoto. I watched their backs fade into the distance, then pulled a small cake from my drawer and stuffed big bites into my mouth. It was her favorite flavor, not sweet at all. Everything that happened today played over and over in my mind, making my chest ache. That day, Makoto became the third wheel between me and Willow. Our relationship could never go back to how it used to be. Chapter 3. Makoto was a natural at socializing. Within just a few days of transferring, he had already blended in with the whole class. I didn't understand how he and Willow had suddenly become so close. All I knew was that starting from that week, she no longer needed me to bring her breakfast. "I brought you steamed buns, got both of your favorite flavors today," I said, placing them on her desk. Willow kept her head down, busy organizing her drawer. "Thanks, but you can take them back. I've already eaten." Makoto lifted a half-eaten bowl of long and sticky rice porridge and held it up in front of me, wearing a smug smile. "Oh, I didn't know you brought breakfast too." But Willow couldn't even finish this porridge. "You really don't need to keep bringing food." "What did you just say?" I looked at the bowl in his hand, and something clicked. "Isn't it better if you stop bringing breakfast? Focus on your studies, no need to fuss over trivial stuff like this," Makoto added, curling his lip and ducking behind Willow. "Wait, you're not actually mad, are you?" Willow put her book down and sat up straight. "Makoto's just trying to help. Don't be so petty." That line hit me like a punch to the chest. My head filled with question marks, and I was left speechless. I looked up at the sky through the window as that familiar ache returned to my chest. Fine, I'm the petty one. It's all my fault." My sudden outburst silenced the entire classroom. Makoto quietly sipped his porridge, mouthing the words, "She drank this, it's sweet, George." Willow's voice was sharp, clearly irritated by the sarcasm in my tone. I couldn't take it anymore. I reached over and pulled the steamed buns off her desk. "Why are you yelling? You think I'll back down just because you raise your voice?" Willow was stunned. It was the first time I had ever spoken to her that way. She instinctively reached out to grab my hand, but I pushed her away. "Don't be mad. I'll eat it." "All right, Give me the buns, keep bringing breakfast like before. Willow held out her hands with a gentle tone, like she used to. I glanced past her. Makoto was glaring at me with pure jealousy. I had never seen that look in anyone else's eyes. He was the first. From that day on, Makoto started making things difficult for me. It was like being caught in a sudden storm. A tiny boat in the middle of raging winds and rain. I had nowhere to hide. I was strong in science, ranking near the top of the class, but my language arts grades were notoriously bad, often publicly called out by the teacher. Whenever I answered a question in class, Makoto would mutter under his breath, "You don't even know that. What an idiot." His little entourage would laugh along, the snickering echoing through the room. During group discussions, I'd barely share my opinion before Makoto rolled his eyes. "I don't agree with that." Then his circle would launch into mocking me, turning everything I said into a joke. At first, Willow would still speak up for me. "Come on, don't be like that. We're all classmates." But Makoto always had a way to twist things. "I'm just doing it for his own good," he'd say. And with that, Willow would fall silent, as if she agreed with him. Watching them laugh and chat together felt like having needles pricked into my chest. Half a semester passed. My eyes were swollen and red from allergies, which soon became Makoto's next weapon. After school, I put on sunglasses and tried to slip out of class. Makoto immediately pointed at my face and shouted, "Look, he spent the whole day lying on his desk. Bet his eyes are swollen from crying. That's why he's wearing shades." Then he yanked them off my face. "Told you so." All eyes turned to me again. Another wave of laughter erupted. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I fought hard to keep them from falling. "That's enough. You really think you're funny?" Makoto shrugged like he couldn't care less. "Relax, it's just a joke. Don't be so sensitive." But I knew. These so-called jokes weren't funny at all. Chapter 4. A surge of fury exploded inside me. I raised my fist and punched Makoto square in the face. He clearly wasn't expecting it. My punch knocked him to the ground, leaving a red mark on his cheek. He looked utterly humiliated. "Are you looking to die?" Makoto grabbed onto a desk and stood up. I looked at the powder residue on my fingers and sneered. "No wonder your skin's so thick. You caked on so much foundation." I turned to head to the restroom to wash it off, but Willow grabbed my wrist. Her voice was cold and commanding. "Apologize." "Why should I apologize to him?" "You hit him." Her voice was utterly devoid of warmth. "He was just joking. And you hit him. Apologize. Don't make me hate you." I stared at the girl who was now defending Makoto, and a deep unfamiliarity welled up in my chest. "I won't," I shouted. The moment the words left my mouth, Willow slapped me across the face. Everyone's eyes locked on us. The tension in the classroom was suffocating. I touched my burning cheek and laughed. So childhood bonds really can't compete with sudden infatuation. I slung my backpack over my shoulder and walked out of the classroom. Behind me, I heard Willow's worried voice. "Makoto, are you okay? Come on, let's get you to the nurse's office." My face still stung, and there was a dull, heavy ache in my chest. When I rushed out of the school gates, it was pouring rain. I hadn't brought an umbrella, but I didn't care. Head down, I walked through the streets, ignoring the strange looks from passers-by. Soaked to the bone, I finally got home. On the coffee table in the living room was a framed photo of our two families together. We had taken it last summer at the amusement park. I walked into my room and opened my closet. Every piece of clothing Willow had ever bought me was neatly hung. I grabbed a cardboard box and began tossing in everything related to her. On my nightstand was the only photo of just the two of us. I ran my fingers over her smiling face in the picture, then tossed it into the box too. After sealing the box with tape, I carried it downstairs and stopped in front of the garbage bin. Thud. The box hit the bottom of the empty bin with a hollow sound. Willow and I could never go back to how we were. A few minutes later, there was a knock at the door. I thought maybe my parents had forgotten their keys, but when I opened it, it was Willow. Her expression was cold. "George." I looked down. She was holding the same cardboard box I'd just thrown away. She pulled out our photo. "Why did you throw this away? And all these? They were gifts from me. Why did you throw them out?" I smiled. "What I do with my stuff, what's it got to do with you?" She stared at me, eyes settling on the red mark still faintly visible on my face. "I didn't even hit you that hard. Why is your face like this?" Her voice suddenly broke, and she reached out a hand. I turned my head, dodging her touch. She was the only friend I'd ever had. Whenever I felt wronged, she was the first person I'd run to. "I didn't mean to," she said anxiously. "I didn't control my strength." "Enough. That's enough." I cut her off. "From now on, we're just neighbors in the same building." Willow set down the box and grabbed my hand. "Why, George? Is it because I slapped you at school? Don't be such a child. You're a grown man. Can't you stop being so petty?" "Childish. Petty." I let out a cold laugh. "Willow, from this moment on, we're done." Her tears spilled over. "I didn't mean it that way. I was wrong. I'm sorry." Okay. I don't need your apology. One by one, I peeled her fingers off my hand. Don't come bothering me ever again. Her expression shifted from shock to confusion, and finally to a bitter, mocking smile. Fine, fine, you said it yourself. Don't come crawling back later. With that, she turned and walked away without looking back. Only when her footsteps had faded completely down the stairs, did I stand there, dazed, and quietly close the door. Chapter 5. The next day at school, Willow and Makoto were officially a couple. They brought in big bags of candy and dozens of cups of bubble tea, placing one on every classmate's desk. I thought about telling her to focus on her studies instead, but then I remembered, what did any of this have to do with me anymore? Everyone in class agreed, without a word, to keep this open secret from the teachers and help cover for the new couple. It wasn't surprising. When Makoto first transferred, he quickly got in with a small crowd thanks to his upbeat, extroverted personality. He was sunny and good-looking, especially popular with the girls. I'm a guy, but if anyone's bullying you, feel free to come to me, he once said. What's wrong with hanging out with girls? Girls are clean, don't smell like sweat, and they're emotionally sharp. They notice the good in people. There are just some people I can't get along with, overly sensitive, bad temper, can't take a joke. He was clearly referring to the classmates he had made fun of, including me. Because of his jokes, a few students actually disliked him, but Willow, she remained oblivious and even encouraged me to talk to him more. I refused. Makoto noticed and shrugged toward the nearby girls with exaggerated helplessness. I get it. Shouldn't have said they've got a bad temper. Now I've really pissed them off. Ah well, guess I'll be iced out by another clique again. It's fine, I'm used to it. And just like that, he twisted the whole situation. He was the one who bullied us, but now he made it seem like we were the ones alienating him. When I got home that day, I couldn't hold it in and complain to my parents about how ridiculous he was. George, we understand, my dad said. I've met people like him before too. You don't have to worry about him. Just focus on yourself, and it's best not to get too close to that kind of person. Right at that moment, Willow happened to be standing outside our door. Her face darkened immediately after overhearing those words. She was the type who couldn't stand that kind of behavior. Uncle, Auntie, George, talking behind someone's back is not okay. The three of us laughed awkwardly. Later, I realized, at some point, she and Makoto had already built a close friendship. Makoto was decent at math and sat next to Willow, so he took the initiative to tutor her. She was hopeless at the subject. I used to do that, but after one quiz right after he transferred, it all just shifted to him naturally. Makoto also knew about makeup and celebrity gossip, which helped him connect with the girls. A lot of them were Willow's besties, and they quickly grew close to him as well. Willow's impression of him changed, too. He went from being the guy who randomly mocked people on his first day to a cheerful, helpful classmate. She used to dislike guys who clung too much, but somehow, she warmed up to Makoto in no time. In class, she and Makoto passed secret notes and giggled out loud, paying no mind to anyone else. After school, she would hop on the back of his bicycle, laughing and joking with their little crowd of girls. I used to feel bitter and heartbroken whenever I saw them like that, but I'd always try to convince myself they were just friends. I thought Willow liked me. Turns out, I was just full of wishful thinking. We're in a proper relationship, Makoto announced one day, with Willow sitting on his lap. Not like some people who hide behind the childhood friend label just to stick to her like glue. He then added, clearly aiming his words at me. Also, I know some folks out there don't like me and love running to the teachers to snitch, but I'd appreciate it if certain classmates wouldn't report our relationship. Makes them look jealous. I stared at him, expressionless. Some classmates smiled and gave their blessings. Others peeked at me for a reaction. Everyone in class knew I'd grown up with Willow. Everyone knew I liked her. Even at school, other girls had tried giving me love letters. I tossed every single one in the trash. There was only one girl by my side, Willow, and originally, I was the only boy by hers. My desk mate glanced at me nervously. I didn't even lift my head, just focused on solving problems. The mood was tense. Makoto gave a snort and finally looked away from me. Chapter 6. After that, Willow and Makoto became even closer. Willow took off her hair tie and slipped it onto Makoto's wrist, playfully ordering him never to take it off. During class, they passed notes under the desk, and sometimes Willow would laugh out loud like no one else existed. At lunch, Makoto always made sure to get an extra helping of her favorite dish. After school, Willow would sit on the back of his bicycle, arms tightly wrapped around his waist. It had been 10 years between us, so at first, of course I felt uncomfortable, but eventually, I got used to it. Just when I thought we'd never have anything to do with each other again, Willow stopped me at the school gate one day after class. George. Her voice was low and her expression complicated, somewhere between angry and happy. I couldn't tell. Makoto called in sick today. she said, looking at me. I didn't immediately understand what that had to do with me. So what? Willow got straight to the point. Did you hit him again? I froze for a second, then let out a cold laugh. Me? Hit him? I don't even want to breathe the same air as him. And you think I'd lay a finger on him? I wasn't the kind to start fights, especially not with someone like Makoto. I couldn't even stand to look at him. As far as I was concerned, the fact that he left me alone was already a blessing. Why would I go out of my way to mess with him? But Willow's eyes were full of suspicion. She questioned me. Last night, he walked me home and said he'd pick me up this morning, but he never showed. I almost got marked late. I rushed to school, asked around, and found out from the teacher that he called in sick, said someone beat him up. Tell me the truth. Was it you? You're insane. I didn't want to argue anymore. I tried to push past her and leave, but she yanked my wrist hard, staring at me like a predator watching prey. George, I know you're upset that we're dating, but this is too much. Have you forgotten? You're the one who said we should act like strangers. Even if you're jealous, that's no excuse. She stopped mid-sentence, hesitated, then said softly, if you just apologize, we can pretend none of this ever happened. We can go back to how things were. Her tone was urgent, like she couldn't wait for my response. I'd had enough. Are you serious? It's broad daylight and you're dreaming already. Let go of me. Apologize. I told you, I didn't do anything. You two want to date, be my guest, have 10 kids right now for all I care. Go get married and live happily ever after, just leave me out of it. Willow's face turned pale, stunned, but her hand didn't loosen. Just as I was about to shake free, a hand gently touched Willow's arm. Hey, is this how you treat your classmates? I turned toward the voice. It was a girl in a dress, about our age, Anna. The name slipped out of my mouth. Anna was one of our school's top graduates, a year ahead of us. I remembered her because she used to be the crush of countless guys. What was she doing here? Seeing the confusion on my face, Anna glanced at me and winked mischievously. Then, without missing a beat, she slid her arm into mine. Willow's expression soured immediately. Taking the chance, I broke free from Willow's grip and ran off, pulling Anna with me, without looking back. Chapter 7. It was Wednesday during PE class. I wasn't feeling well, but I didn't think much of it. When the teacher blew the whistle, I lined up and ran laps with the rest of the boys. The boys and girls ran separately. The girls had already finished and were waiting nearby. Halfway through the run, my vision suddenly went black. My limbs turned weak and numb. Only then did I realize I was having a hypoglycemia attack, but it was too late. My foot stumbled, and I collapsed awkwardly to my knees on the track. Gasps erupted all around me. Suddenly, I heard fast approaching footsteps, and a slender hand wrapped around my arm, helping me up. It was Willow. Your blood sugar dropped again. Did you skip breakfast again? You're in no shape to run. Can you please take some responsibility for your body? Are you hurt? I'll take you to the nurse. She kept nagging beside my ear. I was already irritated from falling, and all the eyes staring at me only made me more annoyed. I yanked my arm back hard, trying to pull away. Don't touch me. I can walk on my own. She growled back. Is this really the time to throw a tantrum? Can you just care about your own health for once? I'll just take you to the nurse's office, and then I'm leaving. Is that okay with you? I let out a bitter laugh. You don't get it, do you? Is low blood sugar some kind of fatal illness? Sitting down somewhere for a few minutes will fix it. Am I dying? Do you have to take me to the nurse? Willow clenched her jaw. After a moment, she hissed through her teeth. Why do you have to be so ungrateful? I looked at her calmly. If that's what you want to believe, then go ahead. Willow flung my arm away and stormed off without looking back. There weren't many people in the nurse's office, just one girl sitting on a cot. It was Anna, again. Why was she still on campus? Didn't she already graduate and go off to college? She spotted me and lit up with a bright smile. Hey, Wang, what a coincidence, you're at the nurse's office too. I nodded weakly. Then I noticed, Anna was actually injured. Not like my minor issue. Hers was serious. Her knee was wrapped in thick layers of gauze, with blood seeping through. The white bandage had turned completely red. She followed my gaze, looked down at her leg, and scratched her head awkwardly. Oh, this? Ugh, there was this uneven spot on the court I didn't see. Took a fall while playing ball. Nothing major. Just a scrape. What about you? Are you okay? I remembered hearing that Anna used to be captain of the school's girls' volleyball team. She was even pretty well known across the city. This must be why she came back, probably invited to help coach the new players. Looking at the bloody gauze made my skin crawl, but I was surprised at how tough she was. She didn't seem fragile at all, quite the opposite. My attitude toward Anna softened unconsciously. I'm fine, just low blood sugar. You should rest. Anna nodded firmly, her smile radiant, completely unfazed by her injury. Because of her condition, she stayed in the nurse's office a long time, and over time, we got more familiar with each other. Anna was naturally friendly, warm, and easy to talk to. She was good at making people feel comfortable. One day, while sitting on the cot, she looked at me a little shyly. "Wang, I think our friendship could maybe move a step forward. What do you think?" I was stunned and waved my hands immediately. "I'm about to take the college entrance exams. I'm not thinking about anything else right now." But Anna didn't give up. A week later, she could walk again. Every day during long break, she came to find me. Sometimes she brought candy. Sometimes she brought my favorite milk. Whenever she showed up, she'd stick close to my seat and chatter nonstop. The boys around me, they'd all jump up and give her their chairs with enthusiasm. Slowly, the rumor spread that the famous graduate Anna was dating a senior. Everyone thought we were together. Chapter 8. I denied it, but everyone just gave me that "sure, we get it" look. Like, if you don't want to admit it, fine, everyone knows anyway. The guy who sat behind me leaned over, full of gossip. "Hey, George, let me ask you, does Anna really have abs?" I blinked. How would I know that? Still, I answered honestly. "I don't know. Come on, men, don't keep it from us at a time like this. We're just curious. You know how many guys chased her during her 3 years at school? She never said yes to any of them." "George, spill it. Come on." Even my desk mate nudged me with his elbow. "A senior girl who graduated with her said she's got abs, and you're her only boyfriend. You must have seen them, right? Come on, tell us, were they hot? What did they feel like?" I thought for a second. Did she have abs? If I really dug into my memory, I think I actually had seen them. I fell into deep thought and mumbled. "Maybe, yeah. Even though she's thin, she's really athletic." "Aya, bro, how far did you two go already?" The guy behind me shouted before I could finish. "Hey, shut up." I quickly covered his mouth. "I just saw it a few times." "Okay, don't make it sound like we did anything." Just then, a sharp crash rang out across the classroom. We all turned. It was Willow. She had dropped her cup and shattered it. Her face was pale, as if it took her a while to realize what had happened. Then she slowly crouched down to pick up the shards. As she gathered the broken pieces, Makoto suddenly shouted, "Willow, your hand." I looked over and saw that her finger had been cut. Bright red blood dripped down, trickling from her hand. She stared at her fingers, expression distant, lost in thought. "I've got tissues. Willow, come here. I'll help you wrap it." Makoto reached for her hand, but Willow yanked it away. And then, in front of everyone, she walked straight toward me. The cut was deep, but she didn't seem to feel any pain. Blood left a dotted trail on the ground as she stopped in front of me. She looked at me and said softly, "I got hurt. George, can I have a Band-Aid?" I looked at her quietly. She knew I always carried Band-Aids. Because of her, when we were kids, Willow was wild. She loved climbing trees, picking fruit, and catching crayfish in the river. She was always getting cuts or twisting her ankles. In middle school, a girl who had a crush on me got angry when I rejected her. She sent her older brother to block me in an alley after school. Willow charged in swinging a 2-meter stick and beat them so badly. No one ever dared to mess with me again. Another time, that same girl got a group of her friends to tail Willow. After school, they pushed her down the hallway. That part of school had full-length glass windows. Willow wasn't expecting it. She crashed through the glass and rolled onto the ground covered in shards. Thankfully, it was the first floor. She wasn't seriously hurt, but both her arms were covered in thin, bloody cuts. When I found her, her uniform was already soaked in red. She was in so much pain. Her face twisted up, but she still gritted her teeth and told me she was fine, that it didn't hurt. I cried so hard I couldn't see clearly, but all I could do was stand there, helpless, watching the blood keep soaking through her sleeves. From that day on, I always carried Band-Aids with me. Chapter 9. Ever since then, no matter who bullied me, I always handled it myself. I never told Willow again, afraid she might get hurt because of me. She's a girl too. How could I always rely on her to protect me? But that habit stuck with me even now. Willow once teased me for overreacting, but when I saw the smile in her eyes, I knew she actually enjoyed it. That was until Makoto transferred in. One day, he saw a Hello Kitty bandage fall out of my bag. He told Willow, "You're already a grown man, and you're using Hello Kitty bandages. What kind of guy likes stuff only girls are into?" Willow just smiled and nodded. I snapped out of the memory and looked at Willow, gently shaking my head. "I'm not a doctor. If you're hurt, go to the nurse's office. You hurt your hand, not your leg. I don't think you need me to carry you. Besides, isn't there someone else now?" Willow didn't look surprised. The color drained from her face. She gave a soft, self-mocking laugh. "Got it." Her gaze dimmed instantly, losing its usual sparkle. After school, Makoto cornered me behind the classroom. "We need to talk." He wasn't smiling this time. His face was dead serious. "Honestly, I was getting annoyed. Why do they keep coming to me? I mind my own business. Isn't that supposed to be a good thing? They're in a relationship. I'm just living my life. We shouldn't even cross paths. So why is one confronting me today, and another wants to talk tomorrow? Makoto stared at me intensely before finally saying, I really don't get it. You're just a nerd who only knows how to study. Why does she care about you so much? I almost laughed out loud. Cut the indirect talk. If you've got something to say, just say it. His face darkened for a second. His eyes filled with frustration. You must be pretty pleased with yourself. Huh? Willow might be with me now, but her heart is still with you. She saw you with another girl and went absolutely nuts. She hasn't talked to me for days. I really don't get it. What's so great about a clueless guy like you? She just got emotional and slapped you once, and you cut her off like that. You're mad just because she embarrassed you, right? So because your fragile pride got hurt, you're willing to throw away a lifelong friendship. You're honestly the perfect example of selfish and petty. Makoto let it all out, like he was genuinely indignant for her. I listened quietly until he finished, then said, You don't need to test me. I'm not going to make up with her. He stiffened. I chuckled and added, Being sent by your girlfriend to test another guy's feelings, that's got to be awkward. Huh? But don't worry, I'll treat her like a stranger from now on. I'm George. I don't take back what I throw away. Tell Willow the same thing I've always said. Stay the hell away from me. Makoto's expression twisted, part guilt from being exposed, part humiliation, and part confusion. As I walked away, I heard his voice behind me, full of reluctant frustration. George, just because of that one slap, just for that? Yes, just for that, I answered again, giving the same reply. Chapter 10. That night, I received a call from an unknown number. Without thinking much, I answered. George. It was Willow. She probably got a new SIM card. Are you done yet? I was about to hang up as soon as I finished speaking. Wait, please. Just listen to me. Willow called out to stop me. I fell silent. I read that diary. After a moment, her hoarse voice came through the phone. My mind went blank for a second. She must be talking about the diary I wrote. I only had one diary, the one Willow gave me when I turned 10. I treasured it like gold. And since then, I got into the habit of journaling. I kept writing for many years. That diary held all the feelings I had for her over the years. I recorded every little moment I spent with Willow. Every second I liked her. I even fantasized that one day, when we got married, I would give her that diary. It would be my long confession. Willow's voice was trembling. I'm sorry, George. I read your diary. I never knew you liked me that much. I'm sorry for ignoring your feelings all this time. Honestly, I regretted slapping you the moment I did it. All these years, I never just saw you as a little brother. Willow, I interrupted her. I know you picked the diary up, but after all these days, you're just now reading it. The other end of the line fell completely silent. I chuckled and said, You never asked me about any of this before, did you? Because you never cared in the first place, right? Her voice was weak and colorless. But now that people are saying I'm dating someone, you feel threatened. You suddenly feel your position is in danger. So today, months later, on some impulsive whim, you finally decided to stoop down and open that dusty old diary, didn't you? George, that's not it. I didn't let her explain. I spoke calmly. Willow, you should know, late apologies and confessions can't fix the past. What you're doing now just makes you look cheap. That diary means nothing now. You might as well throw it away. Don't call me again. Don't look for me either. You're really annoying. I hung up. My birthday was in a week. My parents planned a party and told me to invite classmates. At first, I didn't want to invite Willow and the others, but since they'd been behaving lately, I figured I'd treat everyone the same and handed out the invitations. Anna shamelessly asked for one too. On the day of the birthday party, I dressed up. Willow showed up too. Her makeup was flawless, and Makoto was holding her hand, dressed in a white suit. When he saw me, he quickly let go of her hand and wrapped his arm tightly around hers, sticking to her like glue. Willow's face was expressionless. I didn't greet them. I walked straight toward the adults. The party was cheerful, but a little exhausting. At one point, I walked alone onto the terrace to catch some air in the night breeze. Then, I heard footsteps behind me. Even if I didn't want to admit it, I recognized them instantly. We'd known each other for too long. She stood behind me, her voice hoarse. Can we talk, George? I turned and saw Willow's eyes, red and puffy. Of course, I said expressionlessly, but if possible, I hope it's the last time. Her face turned pale, and she gave a bitter laugh. Does it really have to be like this between us, George? No matter what I say now, you won't forgive me, will you? I looked away. I really don't understand. Didn't you always like me? You know it. I like you too. We were just one step away from confessing to each other. Why are you treating me like this? She finally said it out loud, for the first time admitting that she liked me too, but it came under circumstances like this, all because of that one slap. Just like the first time she asked that question, I nodded without hesitation. Yes, because of that one slap. I heard it that day. Chapter 11. Willow didn't slap me just because she lost control of her emotions. The day before it happened, on the way home from school, I saw Makoto giving Willow a ride, but halfway through, they suddenly took a turn away from the road that led to our neighborhood. I felt uneasy and followed them. Willow and a few of her girlfriends took Makoto into a hot pot restaurant. While eating, they chatted away. He's been by your side since elementary school. Wow, that's basically what they call childhood sweethearts. So does he like you or not? Of course he does. In class, he only ever talks to Willow, not any other girl. 9 years of chasing her. Willow, you're still not saying yes, don't like him. My heart tensed up. Willow laughed lightly and replied offhandedly, I mean, I do like him, but I'm not really interested in dating. He's too dull, boring. A wave of commotion followed. Damn, that's savage. Girl, aren't you afraid he'll stop liking you if you keep stringing him along like this? No way. Guys like that, once they fall for someone, they cling on for dear life. You can't even shake them off. At that moment, Makoto's voice chimed in with a grin. Exactly, I totally get that kind of guy. Once he likes something, he never stops, and he's always looking for someone to lean on. I bet no matter how Willow treats him, as long as she shows him a tiny bit of kindness, he'll keep liking her forever. Look, even though I'm this close with Willow now, he's still watching us with puppy dog eyes, isn't he? I'd say, even if she slapped him in public, then said sorry later, he'd still be fine with it. For real, that brainless. If he's that devoted, Willow, wanna give it a try? Slap him in front of everyone, bet he'd still come crawling back. I held my breath. In the noisy restaurant, Willow's voice rang out clearly. Sure, let's try it. Willow was trembling, her hands slightly shaking. That's not it. George, listen to me. I just said that to save face. I didn't mean it. Don't deny it. That's pathetic. Willow, I looked at her and said softly. Didn't you always say it's awful to talk behind people's backs? Take a look at yourself. How are you any better? Willow's face instantly drained of all color. I let out a long sigh. Strangely, though I had been furious and heartbroken at the time, now I felt nothing. It was like watching someone else's story. I know you like me, but I also know you were swayed, right? There was a moment when you thought Makoto was great too, so great you wanted to impress him. That's normal. Willow, you like me because we grew up together, because I looked decent and loved you with everything I had. That's why you had feelings for me. But in the end, we're not a good match. You think I'm good looking, but that doesn't stop you from thinking I'm dull. You think I'm passive, unassertive, not like Makoto, who's confident and presentable. So eventually, you'd be drawn to someone like him, and even if it wasn't Makoto, it'd be someone else, the next sweet, charming guy who's nothing like me but just as attractive. But what you shouldn't have done, is use me as your stepping stone. I gave a cold laugh. How dare you slap me? Who do you think you are? Willow. Why would you slap me, for someone you've only known a few months? Willow's face went completely blank, drained of all hope, because deep down, I had exposed her darkest, most selfish desire, and she knew it. She no longer had the strength to argue. I looked at her, unwavering. In the end, she just stood there in a daze, a single tear sliding down her cheek. George, do you not love me anymore? I never loved you. I said it without a second's hesitation. What? Willow's lips lost all color as she stared at me, completely lost. I looked straight into her eyes and spoke honestly. I used to like you. I liked you for a long time, because you always looked out for me when we were kids. That affection lived inside a beautiful fantasy I built around you. It didn't need your response, it could survive just by existing in me. But not long ago, I let it go. Why? She sounded like she was sleepwalking. Because even now, whenever I see you, my face still stings. I said it without emotion. Willow's face finally lost all color. Chapter 12. Later, Willow broke up with Makoto. I don't know the reason. Even though the college entrance exams were only a few months away, Makoto applied to transfer classes a few days after that. Willow, on the other hand, seemed like a completely different person. She stopped hanging out with her old friends and started following me everywhere. She began bringing me breakfast. At lunch, she'd rush to the cafeteria to save me a spot and get me food. After school, she'd quietly follow behind me, saying she wanted to walk home together. It was like we were back in elementary school. No, she was treating me even better than she did back then. When I asked her what she was doing, she just shook her head and stared at me with those sorrowful eyes, silent. Eventually, she said she only wanted to make it up to me. She wanted to take care of me. Honestly, I couldn't shake her off. No one could talk sense into her. It was exhausting. Just around that time, My parents' company planned an overseas assignment, ironically, to my mom's hometown. We decided that once the college entrance exams were over, our whole family would move. I didn't tell anyone in advance. One weekend, I just sent a few familiar classmates some goodbye messages. Willow was the last to find out. I don't know how she did. She followed behind me a few times and asked, "After you move, you're not coming back, are you?" I ignored her. In the final days before the exams, we were all studying at home. On the day of the exam, someone from Willow's testing room said that she filled her entire answer sheet with my name. Because of that, she failed to get into college and had to consider retaking the exams next year. The day I received my acceptance letter, my parents and I packed up and started the move. Willow chased our car for a long time. I sat in the front passenger seat, silently watching the rearview mirror. I saw her running with everything she had, reaching out as if saying something. I saw her crying uncontrollably, her face pale as paper. "George, don't go. Please, don't leave. I can't live without you. George." Makoto stood beside her, trying to hold her up, but she shoved him away. The wind was too strong, it blew away her last desperate cries. In the end, the figure who had been by my side for 10 years, she fell, stood back up, trembling, then got smaller and smaller, until all that was left was a blurry black dot, and then, gone. Later on, I heard bits and pieces about Willow from old classmates. Some said she was completely crushed while repeating the year, dull, lifeless every day. Some said she spiraled, became reckless, changed friends constantly. Others said she turned into someone entirely different, burying herself in study, focused, aiming for a specific university. I didn't pay any more attention. Anna and I went to the same university. Naturally, we ended up together. In the first couple of years, every birthday, I'd receive a package. The sender never signed their name, but I recognized the return address instantly. I accepted every package, then had the courier send them back, collect on delivery, using the same shipping slip. It wasn't until my junior year that I finally confessed my feelings to Anna. At her strong insistence, we made our relationship public on social media, and that yearly gift, which had arrived without fail, stopped coming. This is good enough. It should have ended a long time ago. This is the end, and the beginning of my new life. What do you do when your parents are rebellious and unfilial? My dad and mom's illegitimate children showed up at the same time. Some of them were after my assets and wanted to push me out of the company. Others were after my fiancée and wanted to kick me out of my own home. I looked at my father, silent at the dinner table, and my mother, pretending to be blind as she toyed with her prayer beads. Then I flipped the entire table over. If you're going to make my life miserable, then none of you get peace either. Chapter 1. I hadn't been home in half a month, and suddenly, 2 uninvited guests showed up. My dad's bastard son and my mom's illegitimate daughter had both forced their way into the house. At the rectangular dinner table, my mom's daughter, Sophia, sat to my left. My dad's son, Makoto, sat to my right. Seeing I wasn't reacting, my mom cautiously opened her mouth. "George, the 3 of you sitting together like this is such a beautiful sight." My dad chimed in immediately. "Yeah, family should stick together." These 2 had lived like enemies for over a decade, yet somehow managed to team up when it came to me. I spat out a chunk of beef that I couldn't chew through. Suddenly, the food tasted disgusting. I wiped the corner of my mouth and said, "Speak. Why did you bring these 2 things here just to disgust me?" My parents were already used to the way I talked, but these 2 illegitimate brats clearly weren't. Sophia protested, aggrieved. "Brother, how can you call me that?" Makoto snapped. "George, who the hell are you calling a thing? I'm your brother." 2 people, 2 styles. They were textbook cases of what I'd expect from illegitimate children. Under the table, my dad yanked at Makoto hard, then turned to me with a fake smile. "Makoto and Sophia are back with us now. Your mom and I decided together. They're family. We can't just leave them out there." I didn't even look at him. Instead, I turned to my mom. "This your idea too?" She gave a forced smile. "It's everyone's idea, a shared decision." I nodded. "All right. If everyone's fine with it, then I'm fine too. So, which rooms will they be staying in? Do we need to remodel anything?" The moment I let that out, everyone seemed relieved. My mom chirped, "No need for remodeling. Makoto will stay in the big guest room on the first floor. As for Sophia, well, you know the other guest rooms are all a bit cramped. And she's not used to tight spaces. As her older brother, you should be considerate. Let her have your room for now." I forced a smile and stood up. Half a month away and they already claimed my room. Did you really think I'd just roll over if I stayed quiet? Under their confused stares, I grabbed one corner of the table and flipped it over with a crash. Smash, marble slab, stew, and dishes shattered and splashed all over the floor. My dad and Makoto didn't escape either. Piping hot pork and yam soup drenched them both. What the hell? Are you crazy? What's wrong with you? My mom's scream and my dad's shout came at the same time. The housemaids came running from outside. But none of them dared step forward. My dad roared, "You ungrateful brat, are you trying to rebel?" I gave him a cold look. Funny how short his memory was. I'd already rebelled a long time ago. Rolling up my sleeves, I pulled a baseball bat out from under the wine cabinet. Under everyone's stunned eyes, I walked out of the dining room and took the elevator upstairs. The glass elevator let me see my mom's terrified expression. She knew exactly what I was about to do. Chapter 2. Not long after, the sound of glass shattering echoed from upstairs. All the brand new furniture in the bedroom had been smashed to pieces. I yanked the women's dresses and skirts out of the closet and tossed them onto the bed. There were also a few pink Chanel and Hermes bags in the wardrobe. I pulled out a lighter, lit a cigarette, and tossed it onto the pile. The flames caught fast, so fast that by the time my mom and Sophia rushed upstairs, they arrived just in time to see the fire devour those bags. No, my bags, my clothes. Sophia cried out and tried to throw herself into the fire. But my mom held her back with all her strength. My dad and Makoto showed up soon after and went looking for the fire extinguisher. Before my dad left, he still managed to curse at me. "You ungrateful brat." But people should be held accountable for what they say. Ever since I turned 18, no one's insulted me without paying a price. I still remember when that whole supermale syndrome thing started trending online last year. That was the first time my dad found out there was such a gene. He repeatedly asked our family doctor whether I had it. The doctor advised him to stop reading those clickbait accounts, but he wouldn't listen. Eventually, he learned the term and used it constantly. He said I was born a bad seed. Totally unfair. I hadn't even done much. Just kicked his secretary so hard she had a miscarriage. Told off a college girl he brought home until she dropped out. And shipped his soulmate, the cleaning lady from the office, all the way to Africa. He had no boundaries, so I helped him set some, none at all, while upstairs was burning hot. I wasn't idle downstairs either. Makoto didn't have much stuff in his room, which made it easier. By the time they finished putting out the fire and came looking for me, I was in the bathroom flushing the toilet. Makoto's computer had been snapped into 4 pieces. His tablet had a hole through it. His hard drive and camera were all smashed to bits and tossed into the toilet. When Makoto saw the mess in the bowl, his face turned beet red. "You bastard, I'm gonna kill you," he screamed, charging at me with clenched fists like he really meant it. I ducked low, slipped under his armpit, spun around and landed an elbow to his lower back, then followed up with a kick straight to the groin. I grinned. "You wanna throw hands with me?" I trained in mad dog boxing, designed for going straight for the kill. Makoto crumpled to the floor instantly. I knew exactly how hard I hit. He wasn't getting up for at least 30 minutes. I clapped my hands. Now that the small one is dealt with, it's time to take care of the old one. Chapter 3. While my dad was busy calling the family doctor to check on Makoto, I figured I might as well deal with my mom first. I smiled at her and said, "Mom, you wanted to bring Sophia home to live with us?" She immediately waved her hands. Panicked. "George, no, that's not what I meant at all. You know I've devoted everything to you all these years. I even stopped doing beauty treatments just to pray for your well-being at the temple every day. Your sister only showed up because that bastard your father had is stirring the pot again. I swear I'll deal with her properly this time." Ever since I turned 18, my mom had been obsessed with burning incense and praying to Buddha. She said it was to help pay off my karmic debt. I might have believed it, if I hadn't seen her detour into a high-end escort club on the way to the temple. That still cracks me up. I always thought my mom had it rough, married to a man who never came home, then raising me alone. That's why when I went after my dad, I spared her. But she shouldn't take advantage of people just because they're being kind. I curled my lips into a generous smile. "I won't hold your daughter against you," I said. She had just started to relax when I continued. "I heard your son's about to start junior high. Education here's terrible. Why not send him abroad? Let me think. How about Myanmar?" Her eyes widened. All the emotional mother-son act she'd been putting on disappeared in an instant. She snapped. "Are you insane? How could Xiaobao go to a place like that? If you want to send him away, you'll have to kill me first." I didn't respond. Screaming threats like a gangster, how undignified. This is a society ruled by law. I was simply thinking of providing my dear little brother with a better education. I called over my personal bodyguard. I said, "Book a flight to Myanmar for tomorrow. Also, go to Rose Villa, Building 18, and bring back Luis by. Who knows how many years this trip will last. Mother and son should have a proper reunion tonight." Instantly, my mom's eyes filled with terror. She was so frightened she forgot to cry. She thought she'd hidden Luis well. No one was supposed to know where he lived. She loved him so much that she only dared visit once a month. Now she was truly scared. She grabbed my arm and sobbed, "George, He's your real brother. He's only 12. He hasn't done anything wrong. I frowned and pulled my arm out of her grip, seeing her crying like her soul was being torn apart. I wavered. The bodyguard was still waiting beside me. I changed my order. Cancel the Myanmar flight. Book one to Germany instead. Let him attend the best university there. Then I ignored my mother's wails and walked off. When I went to find my dad, he was on the phone. I wasn't sure what the person on the other end said, but I heard him shout something about someone being crazy. I silently walked over and snatched the phone from his hand. Seeing the name Laura on the screen, I smiled and squinted my eyes. MS, Laura. Why not come visit sometime? Why didn't Makoto bring you over today? I waited a while, but the line was silent. I checked and saw the call had already ended. I tossed the phone back at my dad, who was clutching his chest, gasping for air. I frowned. What kind of men are you? Your mistress dares hang up on you now? Chapter 4. My dad kept taking deep breaths, like he was about to faint from the shock. It took him a while to calm down. Then he ground his teeth and said, "What exactly do you want? Look at what you've done to Makoto." I had no intention of showing my dad any kindness. I said coldly, "What have I done to him? If he tries anything again, I'll make sure he can't ever have kids. You know me, Dad. I always follow through," he shouted. "You disgrace of a son. You're just rotten to the core." Martin, had a spotless name. How did I end up with a cursed child like you? I sneered. Don't waste your breath. You've done 800 paternity tests already. Still don't believe I'm your son. Hearing our shouting, Makoto hobbled out of the bedroom. Through clenched teeth, he said, "George, that's your father. How can you say something so disrespectful?" I glanced at the fool practically steaming out of his ears. Every time we meet, he either throws the "I'm your big brother" card, or tries to use Dad to suppress me. That's all he's got, I said. I always thought it'd take two idiots to create someone as dumb as you, but then I met your mom the other day. Turns out, she's way smarter than both of you. I sighed. So that means it only takes one stupid parent to produce a moron like you. Makoto reacted instantly. He roared. You met my mom. Why the hell would you meet my mom? See what I mean? He's practically announcing to the world that his mother is his weakness. I curled my lips. Why did I meet her? To get rid of her. Of course, you wouldn't dare. Makoto tried to lunge at me again, but the motion tugged at his injuries. He collapsed straight to his knees. My dad panicked and immediately called for the family doctor again. The whole place turned into a frenzy. It was getting late, and I had no interest in dragging this out any longer. I looked my dad in the eye and said bluntly, "Kaito's living expenses are cut off starting this month. When you've thought it through, you can restore them." My dad stared at me, stunned. Kaito, he was the secret nobody else knew about. Laura was Dad's first love. She ran off while pregnant, and gave birth to a pair of twins. My dad didn't know a thing about them, not until they were both already in college. Kaito went straight abroad to study. Makoto stayed with my dad and chose a local university. My dad treated Kaito like a hidden weapon, something he kept buried deep. Honestly, I might not have dug it out on my own, but my grandfather told me everything. From the moment Laura gave birth to a child with Wang family blood, Grandpa had known. Everyone has a weakness. My mom's is Luis, Makoto's is his mom, and my dad's is Makoto and Kaito. Chapter 5. Outside the villa, a red Ferrari was parked by the curb. As I stepped out, a woman got out of the car. It was my fiancée, Willow. She smiled like a seductive fox and said with a teasing glint in her eyes, "Got time tonight? Want to come over for a drink?" Willow's face was a sight for sore eyes. A luxury car, a beautiful woman, and good wine. No reason to say no. My fiancée was carefully handpicked by my parents. Willow wasn't just beautiful with a killer figure. She was well educated and the heiress of a wealthy, prestigious family. To my parents, she was the perfect woman. They hoped I'd fall for her at first sight, put down my blade, and walk the path of virtue. What a joke. Two heartless people thinking they could raise a hopeless romantic. The company under my name was about to close its Series C funding round, and I was so busy I barely had time to breathe. Willow came to visit a few times, but when she realized I truly didn't have the time, she stopped bothering me. By the time I had things under control with the funding, 2 months had passed. During those 2 months, my parents were surprisingly well behaved. Luis was sent to Germany. My mom made a scene twice, but in the end, had no choice but to accept it. As for my dad, he was suspiciously quiet. At the Panda Group's monthly board meeting, he sat just one seat down from me, looking refreshed and content. Seeing him like that, I couldn't help but wonder if he had a new mistress somewhere. Panda Group had been around for decades. Since I took over, I basically maintained the same direction as when my grandfather was alive. Industry first, tech second. while countless companies were diving into radical reforms. I chose a conservative approach, not because I feared change, but because this company wouldn't survive change. No good company could survive being dragged down by a boardroom full of scheming old men with more tricks than pores. After the meeting, my dad stayed behind. Unlike that day when he was hurling insults, he actually smiled at me for once. He said, "George, have you been eating properly lately? You look thinner." I gave him a hollow smile. "If you've got something to say, spit it out." He clicked his tongue. "I'm just showing concern. By the way, I heard from Willow that Boozhong is closing its Series C round. That Uncle Lee I drink with is from Tianyuan Capital. Want me to introduce you? Anyone who drinks with my dad can't be much good. Besides, I've been chairman of Panda Group for years. Do I need him to set up contacts for me?" I ignored him and stood up to leave the meeting room. As soon as I opened the door, Makoto was standing there like a damn statue. He forced a smile and said, "Morning, little brother." Before I could speak, the bodyguard pulled him aside. I'd run out of patience. I said coldly, "If you still won't talk straight, I'll throw all of you out." Seeing I was getting angry, my dad stopped pretending. He said, "George, so you know about Kaito now." I didn't say anything before because I was afraid you'd be upset. But Kaito is still your real brother. When I heard him mention Kaito, I turned to look at him, eyes cold and unreadable. He continued, "Kaito studied financial management in the UK. He just graduated recently. I was thinking maybe he could come home and help out. He's nothing like that useless Makoto. He's a proper finance grad. He turned down several job offers from big foreign firms just for the family. Things haven't been easy for the group these years. We can't let talent like that go to waste. The GM position in the sales department is still vacant. Let your brother take it." The way he looked at me even had a trace of caution in it. All these years, he's cursed me, hit me, hated me, feared me, but he'd never looked at me with caution. How pathetic. For the sake of another son, he could suddenly grovel and play humble. I curled my lips into a smile, one that never reached my eyes. "Sure," I said. Chapter 6. When I was 18, my grandfather died suddenly from a heart attack. In his final moments, I was the only one he asked to see. Less than an hour after his death, my grandmother and second uncle locked me up in the old family house, kept me under house arrest. They demanded my father hand over all his shares in exchange for me. I remember clearly. Grandma gave him a one-day deadline, but a full 3 days passed, and my father never showed up. On the third day, Lawyer Zhang brought over my grandfather's will, already signed and notarized long ago, and took it to my dad. It wasn't until he saw the contents of the will that he finally rushed over to rescue me. By the time he got there, I was barely hanging on. Starved nearly to death. My grandfather had left me 29% of his shares in the company. Even now, I can't help but laugh when I think of that day. 1 second, Grandma and my uncle were ready to let me die. The next, they changed their expressions on the spot when they saw the will. That stubborn old hag even dug out her 1,000-year-old ginseng to nurse me back to health. My father was even more dramatic, putting on the face of a loving father. He actually called the police and had his own mother and brother arrested for what they did. That's when I realized, no sane person can survive in this family. While I was recovering, my father kept trying to sweet-talk me into transferring the shares. My mother, who was on vacation in the Maldives with her boy toy, even made a special trip back just for my shares. I said yes. Then the moment they let their guard down, I snuck out. By the time they found me, I'd already signed and filed my own will with the best legal team in the city. In the event of my death, all my shares and assets would be liquidated and donated to charity. In other words, if I died, my parents wouldn't get a single cent. With just his 3% of shares, my dad would eventually burn through it all. From that moment on, the Wang family was mine to run, and if I'm in a bad mood, no one in this family gets to smile. That same day, Kaito flew back to the country. My secretary showed me a photo of their happy little reunion. In the photo, Kaito wore a crisp white suit and gold-rimmed glasses, looking every bit the mature and polished man. From his background, it was easy to tell he inherited his mother's brains. He was a top student growing up, and the moment he found out Martin was his biological father, he didn't hesitate for a second to let him foot the bill for his overseas education. Smart people usually know what they want, but it's also the smart ones who tend to overestimate themselves. Chapter 7. On Monday, Kaito arrived at Panda in Martin's car. He didn't care about other people's stares the whole way and carried himself with composure and grace. Even when HR led him to a regular sales rep's desk in the sales department, he was only briefly surprised. I was in my office, having just finished speaking with the newly appointed sales manager, when the secretary announced Martin's arrival. He stormed into my office, seething with rage. When he saw how relaxed I was, his fury exploded. You ungrateful brat, what did you make Kaito do? He has a master's degree in finance. How could you send him to do that kind of work? Out there under the sun and wind, how could he endure that? I looked at him calmly and said, Dad, Panda isn't some game. No one comes in fresh out of school and gets to be a manager. Makoto also started by doing ground-level sales, why can't Kaito? Back when Makoto wanted to join the company, Martin tried to get him a director-level position right off the bat. I generously let him in. Even though he's an illegitimate child, he's still family, better to keep him close where I can watch him. But how could someone just walk in and be made a director? I told Martin he needed to start from the ground level to understand the business. Otherwise, when he gets promoted later, everyone would know it was because of his connections. How would he earn anyone's respect? Martin, though reluctant to see his son suffer, had been in business long enough to understand my point. At the mention of Makoto, Martin got even angrier. He shouted, Don't bring up Makoto. It's been 3 years and he's still in sales. Didn't you say starting from the bottom leads to promotion? Why hasn't he been promoted? I blinked and tilted my head as I answered. Isn't it obvious? Because he's not capable. He asked, Then why didn't you start at the bottom? I laughed at how naive Martin was. I said, Dad, are you getting senile? I own 29% of Panda. Who would dare send me to the bottom rung? If you gave them shares too, they wouldn't have to start at the bottom either. Martin said nothing after that. Asking him to give up his shares would be like asking for his life. He had stormed in full of rage, but ended up leaving in defeat. Kaito and Makoto working side by side in the sales department became quite the talking point. In the entire company, sales is arguably the most exhausting, grueling department. I never gave any direct orders, but the people here are all seasoned players, naturally. They left the hardest work to the two brothers. Makoto's physically strong, so he could handle the dirty and tiring tasks, but Kaito was different. He was a high achiever academically, and after 2 weeks of grinding it out, he finally broke. At noon, just as I arrived at Panda, he stopped me, gritting his teeth. He looked at me stubbornly and said, We need to talk, brother. He emphasized the word brother heavily. I took off my sunglasses and gave him a once-over. He'd gotten a bit darker compared to the day he returned, and that aloof, breezy look on his face had mostly disappeared, but the superiority in his eyes was still thick. I couldn't figure out what exactly he had to feel superior about. I put my sunglasses back on. The bodyguard immediately moved to block him aside. What a joke. Someone like him thinks he's worthy of having a talk with me. Behind me, Kaito couldn't hold it in and shouted, George, I have Wang family blood in me just like you. Don't push it too far. I didn't even turn around. I ignored him completely. Chapter 8. After I ignored him, Kaito didn't come looking for me again. Some time later, the secretary mentioned that he was getting along well with people in the sales department. He often treated his co-workers to drinks and meals. Even when he overheard someone gossiping about him being an illegitimate child, he remained composed and handled it with grace. Many people started seeing him in a new light. Gradually, rumors began spreading throughout the company. They said I was heartless and cruel, making things hard for my own blood brother. Some even went as far as to claim that my mother was the mistress who tore Martin and Laura apart, and that Kaito and Makoto were the true heirs of the company. In the break room, a male employee was vividly describing how despicable I was and how noble Kaito was. I couldn't help but laugh out loud when he finished speaking. Instantly, the whole break room fell silent. I glanced at his employee badge. He was one of the flunkies from Kaito's department. I nodded at the people in the room and said nothing more, then left with my team. After all, I was here today to inspect the sales department, and every sales leader was following behind me. Honestly, I was a little disappointed. Was that the best Kaito could do? Even if he managed to win over the entire company, so what? No one's stupid. They all know who signs their paychecks. After the department inspection, I called Willow. We hadn't seen each other for over a month. There was some noise on her end of the line, and she spoke softly. I've got something going on today. I'll come see you once I'm done in a few days. Okay. I told her I understood. Things hadn't exactly been smooth sailing for her over at Lu Corporation either. After all, the only reason she was in line to inherit the company was because her brother had come out as gay and refused to compromise. What I didn't expect was that same night at the Zolan Club, I'd run into my supposedly busy fiancé. I rarely visited that club, but a friend happened to be celebrating their birthday there that day. Just as I entered, I saw Willow behind a Chinese folding screen. Her Cheongsam hugged her graceful figure perfectly. It was obvious she'd gone out of her way to look stunning. Every move she made exuded elegance. But the very next second, a tall man stepped out from one of the private rooms behind her. I tilted my head, and Kaito's face suddenly came into view. Willow, he said, smiling as he gently patted her on the head, murmuring something in a low voice. Willow naturally took his arm, the two of them smiling sweetly as they walked back into the room together. I didn't go into the club. I went straight back to my car alone. Willow and I had been engaged for over a year. She'd been the picture-perfect fiancée that entire time. I'd always believed that shared interests were more stable than emotions. But how could she fail to understand that? Chapter 9. The next morning, photos of Willow and Kaito appeared across the biggest entertainment headlines. In just one night, the private investigator had dug everything up. They had met through Martin. After returning to China, Kaito thought he had everything under control. He believed that someone like me, arrogant, unmotivated, and coasting by on company shares, was no match for him. What he didn't expect was that he wasn't even qualified to confront me directly. He had delusions of taking me down from the inside, first by cozying up to the employees, then by spreading rumors. At the same time, he got close to Willow and stole my fiancée. How childish, how laughable. At 9 a.m., the business department notified Lu Corporation that all ongoing projects were suspended. No contracts would be renewed once the current ones expired. At 9:20, my secretary informed me Willow had arrived. The media frenzy was out of control. Headlines screamed, heiress of Lu caught cheating with her fiancé's half-brother. Overnight, everyone suddenly knew about our little illegitimate family member. Lu Corp couldn't scrub the trending topic, so they tried to distract the public by buying another hot search. But unfortunately for them, public opinion was under my control. No matter how big the other scandals were, none could bury this one. The secretary brought Willow in. She anxiously began explaining. George, it's not what it looks like with him. Please let me explain. I raised my hand and cut her off. Willow, fulfill the duty of the role you're in. She froze. I continued slowly. I thought you were smart enough to know exactly what kind of arrangement we had when you agreed to this engagement, even with the deal you struck with my father and his people. But I was wrong. You're just as stupid as the rest. Do you know what happens to people who betray me? Willow, while I'm still in a good mood, get out. Her face flushed red and pale in turns. She clearly hadn't expected me to be so ruthless, but she forgot. I've never been someone who plays nice. After a moment of silence, Willow snapped bitterly. George, you never had any real feelings for me. Real feelings? How could I not? The truest thing I've ever had is my ambition. I sneered at her. Who do you think you are, that you deserve my true feelings? The secretary entered to escort her out. Willow had barely walked out when Martin stormed in. He yelled, "Take that trending topic down right now. Do you know what people are saying about Kaito?" I shook my head. No. Seeing my attitude, Martin flew into a rage and swept all the documents off my desk. Chapter 10. He demanded. What exactly are you trying to do? Your brother just had dinner with Willow. Do you really need to blow things this far out of proportion? Do you have any idea what kind of impact this will have on Kaito? What people in the company will think of him? And you, getting your fiancé stolen, does that make you look good? Take the trending topic down immediately, and promote Kaito. Look at what these past few months have done to him. Also, make Makoto his assistant. I mean seriously, you don't even use the talent in your own family. Real brothers should fight battles together, just like fathers and sons on the battlefield. Instead, you bury them in the trenches just because you're jealous. How can someone so envious of talent possibly run a company? And another thing, I saw Willow leaving just now. Go apologize to her. A man should know how to be magnanimous. If you keep acting this way, what will people say about you? Martin just wouldn't shut up. I wanted to rip his mouth off. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. Hitting people is illegal. Ripping mouths off, even worse. I just steadied myself when Martin started up again. Are you even listening to me? Kaito is so outstanding. Can you stop holding him back? If I'd known you'd turn out like this, I should have strangled you at birth. Smash. The sound of crystal shattering echoed through the office. Martin froze, staring in disbelief at the fragments on the floor. If he hadn't moved fast enough, that sharp-edged crystal ornament would have smashed right into his head. You. I stood up, picked up another ornament from my desk. Step by step, I walked toward him. By the time I reached him, his forehead was already glistening with sweat. It was the first time I truly looked at him. He was getting old. The man who once loomed over me like a dark cloud was now nothing more than an insignificant drop of rain. I said, Martin, if you weren't my father, I'd have 100 ways to make sure you wouldn't survive. He blinked, his lips twitching, trying to say something. Before he could speak, I raised my hand and aimed the ornament straight for his head. Martin shut his eyes tightly, instinctively shielding his head with his arms. But the pain never came. My hand stopped just a few centimeters above him. He stammered. Why you wouldn't dare. Smash. Before he could finish, I let go. The crystal hit the floor, shattering, the pieces scattering and merging with the earlier shards. I said, Dad, you're getting old. Your health isn't great. Why don't you retire overseas? I returned to my desk and pressed the intercom to connect with the secretary's office. A few seconds later, The secretary came in. I said, "Tell HR to fire Makoto and Kaito. They're to complete their exit process and leave Panda before noon. Also, Kaito's personal conduct is a disgrace. He's tarnished the company's reputation. I don't ever want to see him again." I pointed at Martin, who still hadn't fully processed what was happening. I said, "Since Mr. Wong wants to retire abroad, let's remove him from his corporate position. No need to keep the title. And have him step down from the board as well." Martin shouted hoarsely. "George, I'm your father. You can't do this to me." I looked at him coldly and said, "You should be grateful you're my father." Chapter 11. That day, I returned to the Wong family's old house. For once, my mother and I had a calm, peaceful dinner together. At the table, she hesitated for a moment before finally speaking. "George, can I go to Germany?" I looked up at her well-maintained face. There were no signs of age on it. She still looked as young as she did 15 years ago, when I was crying and begging her not to leave. But back then, her face showed only resolve. Now, it showed love. Love for Luis. I found it all unbearably dull. I ate the last piece of rib in my bowl. It was sweet and sour pork ribs. My mom had made them herself. They used to be my favorite. Now, they tasted bitter. I said, "Take Sophia and that man with you. Don't come back." When my mom left, she only carried a single bag. The house, the clothes, the handbags, all things she could abandon at any time, including her son. That night, I dreamed for a long time, but when I woke up, I remembered none of it. Along with what little family affection I had, it was all gone. The trending topic about Willow's affair stayed up for 2 days, riding the wave. I announced our engagement was off. The PR team spun a whole narrative, crafting an image of me as a real man. For a while, the internet was flooded with, "I refuse to be a simp and publicly call out a pretentious coquette" posts, which earned quite a bit of sympathy. Lu Corporation took a huge hit from the broken project deals. They scrambled to fix it and immediately replaced the project head with Alicia. I heard that Willow had been abandoned by her father. The same day her scandal broke, she also cut ties with Kaito. Later, Kaito came to see me once. He looked much more worn down, with dark circles under his eyes that wouldn't go away. He gave a self-deprecating smile and said, "George, you win." His words made me want to laugh. I never even considered it a battle, so what was there to win? He clenched his teeth. "Willow broke up with me. You're really something. All my maneuvering, all these months, wasted. In education, in capability, what do I lack compared to you? We have the same blood. So why is it that you get the entire company handed to you without lifting a finger? Why did my brother and I have to suffer so many years of humiliation? I had a father, yet I was still called a bastard by everyone. George, all of this happened because of you." Seeing the anger on his face, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I said, "What does that have to do with me? Isn't this all because your mom was the side piece?" Kaito snapped. "Your parents were just in a business marriage. My mom wasn't some homewrecker." I replied. "Did they ever get married? Did she have a marriage certificate? Are you a legitimate child? If they never got married, then she was the side piece. If you weren't born in wedlock, then you're an illegitimate child. Call it whatever you want. Scream it to the heavens. It doesn't change what you are." Kaito was furious. My words had hit him right where it hurt. He lunged at me, trying to hit me, but the next second, I kicked him in the knee. Caught off guard, he collapsed hard to the floor. I continued. "Your tragedy is your mother's fault. It's Martin's fault. Ask your mom, why did she insist on having you, knowing Martin was getting married and she had no means to raise a child? Ask Martin, why did he go through with a business marriage instead of being with your mom? Kaito, who do you think you are, to even try and compare yourself with me? Martin's blood may be a gift to you, but it means nothing to me." Chapter 12. After Kaito left that day, I stopped paying attention to him. He couldn't stir up any trouble. I began a series of collaborations with Alicia. She was all business, never brought up anything outside the scope of our projects. There are no permanent enemies in business. With my added support, internal strife erupted at Lu Corporation. I've never believed in, let things go when you can. What I believe in is, when your enemy's weak, finish them off. By siding with Alicia, I dealt a heavy blow to Willow. Where there's internal strife, there's chaos. The first major incident, a project Lu Corp had been sure to win, got snatched away by a small competitor. Rumor had it that Mr. Lu lost it completely. He slapped Willow across the face right in front of everyone at the company. What followed was a domino effect. One scandal after another broke out. They were siblings. After all, under normal circumstances, things shouldn't have escalated this far, but internal turmoil doesn't begin or end just because someone wants it to. With so many companies eager to muddy the waters, everyone wanted to see Lu Corp fall further. At that point, even Lu Corp had lost control. The arrow had already left the bow. There was no calling it back. Eventually, Alicia took over Lu Corporation, and I secured 2% of Lu Corp's equity. Not a huge stake, but enough to forge a partnership. Shared interests are the most stable kind of relationship. That same year, I accelerated the progress of Boozhong and successfully launched its IPO before the Lunar New Year. Once Boozhong was listed, I stepped back from everything else and began restructuring Panda Group. I had tolerated those old parasites for long enough. Now that I had grown strong wings, it was time. Panda had been declining for years without reform. It was headed straight for collapse. But the obstacles weren't just one or two. Even with the backing of Boozhong, it still took 3 full years to carry out the purge. 3 years of hidden undercurrents drained me, body and soul. But in the end, it was worth it. We slashed the long-losing departments, restructured the core, and overhauled the entire group with sweeping reforms. At first, no one believed in me, but eventually, profits kept climbing quarter after quarter. Just as I was finally able to catch my breath, news came from the US. Martin was dead. He had left me 3% of his shares. When the secretary told me, she cautiously asked, "Should I arrange a flight to San Francisco?" I paused for a second, then shook my head. He'd also left me a letter, pages of it, saying how sorry he was for everything, that he knew he was wrong, and that he hoped I could treat his illegitimate son kindly. He knew that 3% stake wouldn't protect them, so instead of leaving it to them, he gambled on me. How stupid, but I didn't care anymore, because whether it's in this life, the next, or even in hell, he'll regret that decision. His mistress and his bastard sons, I've eradicated them all. Assets reclaimed, property recovered, and now he thought he could use that 3% to buy mercy for his bastard. Dream on. My life motto is simple: I always repay a grudge, no matter how small.